Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is with Tensai Bankai. He's doing some amazing things, and as soon as I heard him on the Meshtadel, I knew I had to get him on the pod. Really enjoyed this one, and I'm really enjoying getting to know these people on the Meshtadel and really starting to form groups and help each other out. It's awesome. It's exactly what we need to be doing now. Enough of the price talk. Let's work together and build. Before we jump in, I want to say thank you to my sponsors. Let's start with Casa. Casa make it incredibly easy to start with multi-sig. I've had loads of people reach out to me since I started this sponsorship with them, asking questions. You can start with multi-sig from as little as $10 a month. The service is really slick. The user experience is fantastic. I've been using it for a long time now. I've been very, very happy, and the people I've onboarded have been happy too. If you have any questions, you're not sure, but you're thinking, I want to make sure that I have these sats safe, then you can reach out to me or to Casa and we'll walk you through it. It's keys.casa to upgrade your security today. Next, you're going to need a hardware wallet. There is only one hardware wallet on the market that I strongly suggest to people at the moment, and they are absolutely killing it. No, it's not just because they're my sponsors. They are my sponsors because I hounded them for sponsorship because I love this thing. Foundation Devices Passport is so simple to use with its QR scanning. It's really slick, it looks beautiful, and I really can't recommend it highly enough. If you go to foundationdevices.com and use the code BITBYBIT, you will get $10 off your purchase, and they are actually running an offer on top of that where they have just dropped the price by 33%. It's a fucking incredible deal, and you will not be disappointed. Next up, we have Fast Bitcoins. Fast Bitcoins have an incredible team, and I've just done an interview with Danny Brewster. That was last episode, so if you've missed it, go back and have a listen. As I always say to people, if you can buy KYC free, go and do it. But if you are going to buy KYC, and I know a lot of you do, then you really need to make sure that you have a team and someone behind this company who really cares and is doing what they can to keep you safe. Danny is awesome. I have a lot of respect for him, and I really do believe in their team. So fastbitcoins.com and start stacking today. Tensai, how are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, you're coming through a little bit broken up though. Are you using a mic or are you on laptop one?
No, I'm on a mic.
That's fine now. It's fine now. It sounds good.
Okay. Just turn the volume up.
What are we printing? You said you were waiting for the fans to cool.
Oh, so I have been working on creating a sort of node case. I posted about it a bit earlier this year. We've been having quite a lot of load shedding, and so I wanted to build a case that was able to enclose 4 18650 cells along with all the power, regulation equipment, and as well as an SSD all in one enclosure.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I've been learning how to use like these 3D modeling tools, which has been an experience in itself, and learning the intricacies of 3D printing. It's been quite a rewarding experience.
It's amazing what you can do with these things. The iteration can be so fast, and the quality of some of the prints that I've seen and the things that are being built are mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal, I guess, is to work my way up towards building an FCG or FGC. I don't know if you know what those are.
Is that for like milling and stuff?
No, the FGC. It stands for fuck gun control.
Oh, yes. I know the one.
Yes. So hopefully I'll be able to get confident enough to build something like that. But I think that is quite far away for now.
Well, everyone that I speak to who's messed around with these things seems to think that you don't need a huge amount of experience for it. They just sort of warn that, sometimes these things blow up in your hand. So you want to make sure, if you fuck it up. We had Suckboy Tony. I don't know if you know him.
No.
He's another gun printer. We featured him for 21ism. I think it was last month. He makes some mad different ones. Like, you've got to have a look. It's like Star Trek stuff. It's fucking cool. But he was saying that it was like, occasionally you do have it where these things blow up, so you wanted to like test them first and all this kind of thing, but that basically you don't need a huge amount of experience and you can get something that's pretty damn reliable and good without too much trouble, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like learning how to, do this sort of stuff. And you spoke to, I think, Nonsensical a few weeks ago, and like I'm sure he told you. I didn't have a chance to listen to that show yet, but I'm sure he told you what it was like for a lot of the people living there that were forced to defend their own communities, and you listened to those walkie-talkie communications, and I think a lot of South Africans realize like they don't have enough ammunition.
Yeah.
And so like the state as it continues its collapse around here, you sort of realize like there's no daddy coming to save you. You need to take responsibility for your family and your family's safety. So learning at least how to do this in my mind seems like a critical skill to have.
It's something you hope you don't need, but as you watch things unravel, it seems that it's more and more likely. Yeah, even here, I mean, obviously the gun controls here, you go straight to prison for a long time, but having the skills so that when things turn really, really bad, you can protect your family is no bad thing. And this is the stuff that's so amazing where technology like 3D gun printing and Bitcoin and all these things that are on the cutting edge, they all sort of start to merge because it is on the bleeding edge and it is trying to protect family and lifestyle and savings and everything else. It's with all the volatility in the world, you need something to protect yourself. And that's fucking cool that people have that possibility where they didn't, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. You sort of like learn on this journey that Bitcoin is just the first step. It sort of clicked for me a short while ago that I was quite possibly just LARPing for this change, or not really LARPing, but not doing enough, not fighting for enough change in my own personal life to sort of make the changes that I needed in order for something like this, for Bitcoin to become a reality.
Yeah, I think a few of us have started to have that realization. And, like we've said in the last spaces and a few other conversations we've had, like, there's no point in having all these sats if you've got a bullet in your head or you can't feed your family. And so it's why I'm so interested in and pushing this idea of mesh and of farming and being as self-sufficient as you can in all aspects of life, and to not trust any of these institutions and not rely on any of it if you can. And so that goes right the way through. Yes, money is a really useful tool. Bitcoin's fucking awesome for that. But once you work out that you can be self-sovereign in that way, then I think it's like an addictive process where you're like, well, it almost highlights how weak you are in other areas. And then you think, well, okay, if the world goes the way I think it's going to go, how prepared am I? And it's something I've been looking at myself, and not very is the answer. There's a lot to be done, a lot of work to be done. You've got to be fit, you've got to be strong, both mentally and physically, and you need to be able to not have to rely on the people are trying to fuck you over, and build these connections with the things that you can't do, and do it yourself, whatever you can. So I know you've been dipping your toe in with some of this stuff. Can you share for anyone listening what it is you're doing out there outside of the node case in terms of like produce and things?
Yeah, so it kind of hit me during lockdown, middle of lockdown, when people, not really in South Africa, but at least the rumblings of it, and you saw it implemented outside of the country, where people's freedoms were getting quite heavily restricted. And there's more and more talk of, coercing the non-compliant into compliance through removing their access to society. And it sort of got me thinking along these lines that, in a city, living in cities has made us incredibly fragile. It's made us incredibly weak and susceptible to, I guess, tyranny to say it best. And if I am limited in my ability to access food through stores without proof of vaccination, how am I going to access these resources? And even if it's not something like this now, it could be something else in the future. If this trend of digital identity and digital passports get introduced into our society, it's something that we can never get rid of. And so it sort of made me realize, like, hey, I'm living in a city, and the city gives me great things like the university, arts, culture, all sorts of things, amazing things that happen when people come together. But at the same time, it's made me extremely weak. It's made me quite fragile to systemic abuse, to the system failing. We are completely reliant on all these high order, third tier, fourth systems that take place, that we take completely for granted. And we saw some of that unfold in KZN earlier this year, where there was mass rioting and looting that occurred because of the, just the gradual state of economic decline in South Africa. And, you have a demographic, largely Black South Africans, who are disproportionately affected by the current economic and political negligence by the current government, coupled with previous governments' racial policies that they implemented. And so there was mass rioting and looting, and essentially all the shopping malls were burned and looted completely bare. And the very next day, on the radio, you're hearing people trying to find out where they can find milk and bread for their toddlers. And that's something that you don't really think about, how fragile and how reliant you are on these things. Like, we buy things knowing we can wake up tomorrow, go to the shop and buy some eggs and bread and feed our family. And so, realizing all of this, I decided, okay, it's probably important that I start figuring out and thinking of ways in which I can make myself a little bit more resilient in a number of ways. Resilient to tyranny, resilient to just systemic collapses that could occur. I'm in a very fortunate position in that I am a software developer. I work remotely, and so I've largely been, and I'm I'm alone a lot of the time. So I've largely been unaffected by the ridiculousness that's unfolded over this current crisis. But that doesn't mean like I grew up extremely poor, right? And I know what like the neighborhoods that I grew up in are like a lot of those people were largely forgotten about by all the middle class liberals who have very nice lives, who are saying shut down everything, shut down the economy, we need to save lives.
We need to save lives, just not your lives.
Exactly. And knowing that this was going to be reality sort of like really infuriated me. And you know, it's just come to my realization like, okay, I kind of need to figure out a way to start producing food. My immediate sense was to, try and find some land. But this process of me trying to go out and find that land has been quite illuminating for me, for a country that says they would like to redress the past 300 years of land injustice that's occurred. It's incredibly difficult for a black person to buy land in South Africa. And so I kind of saw, okay, my degen smash buying of Bitcoin hasn't really helped me in the sense of showing that I have the financial capital to buy land. And so I'm now sort of going in the other direction where I'm saying like, okay, so if I can't buy land, maybe I can use someone else's land or rent some land and go about this process of trying to produce food that way. And that's sort of where I sort of circled back to Joel Salatin and started looking quite heavily at the process of producing poultry, organic free range poultry, in a way to start, this process of trying to, how should I say, like start up a business providing chickens to people. And the entire process has just been so illuminating. You learn so much along the way. Like I'm learning about the fact that it pretty much seems like there's a shortage almost, so to speak. There was a massive wave of avian influenza that came through South Africa a few years ago. A large amount of chicks got culled, and I guess the industry is still somewhat recovering. So, you know, just from this process, I saw like, wow, I've got to basically order my birds 3 weeks in advance. And then you learn like, okay, so it's like 6 weeks to raise these birds to slaughter weight. So that's a 9 week process. This is, all of this is completely foreign to me. Like I produce software, like I had no idea the sort of intricacies involved in producing food that arrives on my table that I take for granted. And it's just made and given me a whole new appreciation for the many systems and layers involved in getting this product to my table.
And so the chickens that you're raising, did you have to look into a specific type of chicken that you thought was, I don't know, best for nutritional density? Or did you have to look at sort of which ones grow the fastest and get to a certain weight? And also, once choosing what type of bird, how are you looking at actually raising these? Are they roaming free? You said you were possibly renting some land off someone. So like, what does that process look like for you from like ordering the birds to actually starting to raise them and then slaughter them? What's that process like?
So this is my first run, and the birds have still not arrived yet. There were quite a few assumptions that I made on my part that I had to learn the hard way that these things aren't just available when you want them as a consumer. There's always like I can just go online and order these things, but it doesn't work that way. Even trying to go buy poultry equipment from some of these suppliers, none of them would want to see me without an appointment first. Um, so after a lot of reading, the birds I chose were the sort of Cobb 500s. They seem like the typically these are broiler birds. They sort of grown in cages or enclosed environments, which I just wasn't a fan of producing food that way. And yeah, so I pretty much chose them because of the time it takes. It's 6 weeks from hatch to reach a slaughter weight, and I try to choose something which took as little time as possible, where I could learn as much as possible. So this first run was or is designed to be entirely for me, in the sense that I need to learn what's involved in terms of the time it takes to look after these birds. What's my time commitment in the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, sixth week? What does that look like? What's it going to be like transporting the birds? What am I going to do with the birds after they've been slaughtered? These are all, very important questions that I need to answer before I sort of make a commercial commitment to a restaurant or supermarket or some sort of market where I'm planning on selling this produce. So a lot of thought has gone into the design of the system to ensure that there's sort of I guess kindness in a way. I mean, it's hard to think of kindness when you're slaughtering birds in 6 weeks, but the entire system is like designed to be pasture based. I listened to a lot of the feedback that you guys gave me on the last space that I was in, and initially it was meant to be in chicken tractors, but now I'm just getting electrified poultry netting and setting it up in the fields and trying to figure out and see through this process like what I can do on the land and sort of what the negative pressures of my activities are doing to the land, and trying to scale up this process in a way where I'm not exhausting my environment, and I'm not being cruel to the animals that I'm raising.
Yeah, it's good that you're looking at things this way, and you said it's hard to imagine it not being cruel in a 6 week period, but it's all relative. I'd rather live 6 weeks free than a lifetime in a cage. And so, if you've got these chickens that are roaming free and they're being fed well and they're treated well, and then they're slaughtered in the kindest way possible, well, I think that is a million times better. So I'm glad to hear you're doing that. And also, I mean, I can't remember specifically from the spaces what we've gone into or how much depth, but I know that a lot of people who are into permaculture actually use the chickens to help with the soil anyway, and them like scratching for worms and stuff helps for like seeds and things like that. So it may be that actually it works nicely for the land done right.
Yeah, unfortunately, for the owner of the farm, and this is another thing you sort of learn along the way, where the farm he got sold is sort of a dud. The land is very uneven, and after he bought it, he discovered he's not allowed to change the shape of the land in any which way. He didn't realize that the farm was in an area which was recently designated as protected area, so he's not allowed to disturb the soil in any way. Yeah. So it's extremely painful for him. He's got like 2 or 3 aquaponic tunnels already set up. But that's pretty much the limit of what he's allowed to do there now. And so he's been frustratingly sitting at his computer, trying to work out what's the best way he can get some yield out of these tunnels. And so, I came along presenting this opportunity for us to try and raise chickens on the available land, which he shares. He shares part of the land with a neighboring sheep farmer. So there's even ruminants on the land as well. So there's quite a good possibility that we can get some synergy between what the two of us are doing, where we start trying to do some mob grazing with the sheep in a sense, and then we're sort of following afterwards on that patch of land with the chickens to sort of spread that manure around and remove any of the sort of pests that the sheep might have excreted onto the land. So there's all these sort of possibilities that's opening up to us as we sort of explore this process even further. The other big issue is that he wasn't aware that the land was the aquifer below the land was extremely brackish. So the water's got such a high saline content that it's almost unusable for growing anything other than beetroot. So right now we are slowly looking at developing some sort of filtration system where we're using halophytes, plants that are are high in their salt tolerance, and using a series of troughs where we slowly run water through it to extract all that salt from the water to try and augment our water source, because the cost of water from a municipal supply is extremely expensive when you are running these sort of deep water culture systems.
There's so much that goes into it that you just never think. Like you say, oh, raising some chickens. I think the first place my head goes to is, well, you have a patch of land, you whack the chickens on there, you have something you feed them and house them with, and Bob's your uncle. That's it. But clearly not. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, and so when you do work all these issues out, which I'm sure you will, what is the plan in terms of sale and scale? Are you thinking that, you want to use something like a pleb network and be selling these chickens to other Bitcoiners and accepting sats? Or are you thinking more, like you'd mentioned before, going direct to local restaurants and things like that? Because obviously where you are geographically, it doesn't make sense to sort of be sending chicken all around the world. It just doesn't scale, but it's got to be more of a local thing, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that is the idea. There's obviously sort of limits. Like we kind of, as we go along, we're going to have to sort of figure out what is the sort of carrying capacity of the particular piece of land we're working on. And the numbers seem like we can do possibly around like 1,500 birds, but I think those estimates are way too optimistic. And if we're doing that sort of numbers, I don't think it's sort of if we let's just say we're producing 500 birds a week, I don't think there's a way that Bitcoiners would be able to absorb that. So the idea is that we'd have to find markets through sort of traditional markets where this protein can be sold into. It is going to be a premium product, so it's not really going to be accessible for a lot of people. Like conventional caged chickens
Cheaper.
are way cheaper. They use less feed because they're not moving around, so their muscles don't work as much. And so I'm developing a product which is pricier. So how it's a difficult question to ask. So or answer.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's
just
gonna,
something that's
yeah.
sorry, just something that's popping into my head now. I may be completely wrong here, but am I right in saying that you can do biltong, but you can do it with chicken? So you can actually preserve chicken and have it as you would with the beef? Or am
Yes,
I
yes.
completely wrong here? Okay, well, you can. Okay.
I've seen or rather I've seen chicken biltong. I don't know if it's prepared in the same way. I'm not sure if you have to do something to possibly get rid of any salmonella or something like that. Yeah.
Because I'm just my only thought there is like you're saying that plebs wouldn't consume that amount of chicken. However, the value of biltong in somewhere like the UK is huge. Like the cost for us to go and buy like a tiny, tiny packet of biltong is like ridiculously expensive. And often the quality's not there. When you're doing something like that, you can obviously preserve it for a long time. So you have a longer shelf life. Presumably, you can then vacuum seal it. So packaging is going to be easier and you can send it cheaper. So I just wondered if something like that could potentially be a way, if you don't have people who will take the birds off your hand at the time that you want rather than freezing or whatever, you could do something like that. May not work. It's just something that popped into my head.
Yeah, I mean it's not something that I even really considered as a a bolt-on value add. I know that there are quite strict export restrictions on South African meat, particularly beef. I don't know if that applies to chicken, but
Okay.
that is definitely something I didn't consider. Yeah.
Dry it all with the heat from miners, and then you've always got to try and tie in mining somewhere with these ideas. That's always the plan.
That's a thought that I had the other day when I posted on Twitter, and I got some advice saying maybe not for your brooder, but most certainly for your hatchery and possibly for your chicken coops during winter. Miners would probably provide an excellent source of heat for your birds. Yeah, I mean you're spending the energy on the heat anyway, and the more I look at it, the more I see that heat is it's just another product that should be used and not necessarily a waste.
Well, that's it. Yeah, everyone it's a byproduct because it's not what people are using it for. So they're just like, oh, we'll pump that out, get it away. The cheapest, quickest way is just pump it outside. But if you think about it, then you can offset the cost of electricity against the heat. And I think a lot of people are getting creative with things like that now, especially people in Europe, because our energy costs are fucking ridiculous. And so, you have to be creative with these things. And like you say, with the chickens and making sure that you have the heat you need. Well, do you run a space heater which does nothing else, or do you run one that also mines you sats? I mean, it's pretty clear. It just takes a little bit of time and tinkering usually to make these things work, but I think it's well worthwhile.
Yeah, that whole thing got me thinking as well. Like if you're running a business and your business, doesn't have a high electricity bill, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like why are you trying to be more profitable to give more potential sats to the state? So like either way, I think that strategy has to come into play.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And one thing I'm really interested in, we're going a bit off topic here, we'll bring it back to the farming in a second, but just the use of it in homes. I'd be really interested to see at what point it starts to get more normal to have boilers or your heating systems to be, you have a few miners with an immersion system, a heat exchange, and then that goes through your radiator system or underfloor heating or whatever it is you have in a home. And that when you're speccing a house or you're building a block of apartments or a business or whatever, that becomes normal, that these are units that are used en masse. Have you got any thoughts on timelines for things like that, or any reason you think nah, I don't think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I'm sort of starting to think it's going to happen reasonably soon. If not like an official thing, there'll definitely be companies that spin up to start doing it. And I'm looking at it primarily from the sense that, with these new generation, I think it was Bitmain that said they are now producing a 5 nanometer ASIC, right? And
150 terahash.
yeah, and you got to think like, okay, like we're pretty much reaching the limits of how small these ASICs are going to get, and probably and a lot of other prominent speakers in the space have alluded to this, that the next step would probably be more efficient home miners. So not consuming 3,000 watts, but maybe 1,500 watts of power, producing a significant amount of hash, and then using that heat in your home. It like that sort of calculation becomes a lot more reasonable for a lot of people.
And it's amazing for the network,
Yeah.
because you've got a lot of people are really excited because they're like, oh wow, we've got all this hash leaving China and it's going over to America, and isn't that brilliant? It's like, not really. It's not
Yeah.
really great. You're just moving fucking huge data centers that are centralized from one country to another country. And what does that really do? You really think that if the government doesn't want to come and shut these guys down, where they've got thousands or tens of thousands of miners on grid in data centers, once all this energy FUD completely gets blamed on us and we're all domestic terrorists, you really think that that's going to work long term? No, it's not. If you have these things decentralized in homes all around the world, and if it makes sense financially for people to do it, well, then that completely changes the game. And then it's no longer like a whack-a-mole game that they can play. They're just like, fuck, what are we going to do? Knock on every person's door? Rip out their heating systems? I mean, no.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, and especially this move for like towards public miners. At first it sounded great, especially if at the beginning of this year, you were listening to people like Mike Alfred, toot the horn of these companies, and then you slowly start thinking and realizing, like, actually, this is probably not great. Like, I would much rather not see an ETF and see more people have the opportunity to stack at lower prices than be high time preference and see my bags go up, high in the short term.
Yeah, it's interesting how it changes. I was the same. I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait until there's an ETF. Early days, can't wait till that happens. Yeah, it's going to pump my bags. And like you say, I think it's once the bags turn into more than just money. You have your future tied to these bags. It's a make or break for society in a lot of ways. And so when you really think about it, how good are you going to feel with $1 million Bitcoin, but it's captured and people's freedoms are taken, versus how are you going to feel at $100,000 or $50,000 Bitcoin, but it's more decentralized. It hasn't been captured. You don't have the ETFs. You don't have all the fucking dirty bankers lurking around. And if you have it for the people, I'd be much more happy there. But if you just said that to me a few years ago, I'd be like, no, I just want the money,
Yeah, and this also leads into like the conversation you had with Ben, where it's like, it's all good and well if you have $1 million Bitcoin, but like, can you buy food? Like, can you grow food? Do you have energy? So that conversation of LARPing comes full circle again, where it's like, what am I doing in my life to give myself some more resilience, other than just saying Bitcoin, fix the money, fix the world? I think it's a tool, and it's a tool that we need to use correctly in order for us to bring about the sort of world we want to see.
Yeah, I agree. So what else are you thinking about then? Because you're talking to me about this node case that you're building. There's obviously an issue with power and you're trying to work a way around that. You're trying to make yourself more resilient. You're looking at your food and trying to make yourself more resilient there. Sounds like maybe you've moved out to the countryside rather than the city. Again, you're making these changes to yourself to make yourself stronger and more resilient. What else are you thinking about? Like, are there any bits where you're looking and you're thinking, no, I'm weak here, or I've improved here and want to share it?
Well, I kind of realize I'm kind of weak is the wrong word, but let's use I'm weak in almost every aspect of self resilience. We had a drought in Cape Town a few years ago, and one of the things that I did when I saw this was happening was I was like, well, fuck me. I still want to water my tomatoes. So I decided to build a sort of whole house filtration system. So I went, and this is me never having worked on anything real with hardware and plumbing. And I do the very like computer tech bro thing was like make all these assumptions about reality and what things are going to cost, and then just go from that. The entire process took me 8 months. It cost me nearly triple of what I thought was going to happen, but in the end I built this whole slow sand filter system which took water from my shower and my kitchen, sent it through to an anti-flocculant or flocculant tank, anti-flocculant tank, then through the slow sand filter into another homemade charcoal filter, and then went all the way into my reservoir, which I was then
Nice.
using to water my plants. And it took me 8 months to get that water to a state where it was crystal clear and no smell. But like just doing something as small as that sort of gave me an appreciation that I'm I guess I'm fragile, right? Like, but when you learn how to do something like that, when you learn how to pick up a skill, like how to maybe you learn how to forage mushrooms in the forest or recycle water, like it's the strangest thing. You stand taller, you stand stronger,
As
and
you should.
yes, yes, and this entire process, it feels like it's sort of liberated me from a lot of the demons that I feel like I faced in the past, where growing up poor, I'm now the most like educated person in my family, even though it's fiat academia and that means fuck all. um, uh, I where was I going with this point? Oh yeah, and I feel like it's given me the sort of confidence in myself and my abilities as a human that actually I have this kind of superpower that I can will my desires into a reality, and I need to just harness that power, put it into practice. And the one thing I want to do is create a a space, a sort of space that's not so reliant on these easy to access high time preference systems that I'm participating in, and and make myself, my family, and the local community wherever I situate myself, make that a little bit more robust and reliant, self-reliant. Yeah.
You sleep better at night as well with every little change, like you said about learning to forage mushrooms or whatever it is. And it's kind of like habit stacking these things. And the more of these skills that you have and the more that you develop over time, you do stand taller and you're more sure of yourself. And it's very useful just mentally, because with everything that's going on, and like it's very, very easy to slip into darkness and be like, oh my god, the world is just fucked. This clown world, it can really get on top of you. But then if you think to yourself, well, no, Today I've gone to the gym, I've trained, I've eaten healthy, I'm working on building a filtration system, I've gone and foraged mushrooms, I've got self-defense skills, I'm working on learning 3D printing, I'm working on making sure that my node has better uptime, all these things. And after a while you do think, well, yeah, the world is fucked, but if anyone's going to survive it, it's going to be me because I've put in the work. It is literally, it's proof of work. And when you've made these promises to yourself that you're going to be a better person, you're going to be a stronger and more resilient person, and you start to actually do it and you keep the promises you make to yourself, then you can have that self-respect and say, yeah, I am doing what I'm saying, rather than just stacking sats and going, oh, well, I'm going to be rich. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
fucking good luck with that, mate.
Yeah. And it's sort of like this whole thing has been sort of, an, I guess, an attempt on my part to sort of return to be closer to nature in a sense. Like I have the sense that that cities are derivatives. They derivatives of the countryside. Like up until like 100 years ago, like most of human wealth was generated from the countryside, and the city for a long time has just largely been a drain on those resources where the farmer and the miner was said to produce like surplus value, which was then aggregated in cities, which like allowed all sorts of industry to flourish. And then these specializations that occur because of the productive surpluses allow for advances in tech, which then allow us to extract more value from the countryside. But all of that greater surplus extraction, just allowed our cities to expand to the way that they are now. And like even if we go back to the Roman times, we can note even then that the cities were immense drains, because the cities there produced absolutely no value. It was just filled with peasants and beggars, that the sort of the nobility, or I don't know what you call the upper class there, would just sort of feed the people food, bread and circuses to keep them happy to sort of win the next election cycle. And I find that what we've done is we've sort of gone to this place where we start seeing this derivative as the sort of base reality, like the city is somehow where all of this emanates from, where in reality, the relationship of a space city to a nation state, and a nation state to the city, and the city to the countryside, these are all higher order derivatives that feed on each other and rely on the underlying system. And we sort of run into these issues where we start making these assumptions that this higher order system is the sort of base and true reality. Yeah.
It's a really nice way of putting it. I think more and more people are starting to realize this. And, I get very excited when I hear of, projects like you're doing. And the one sort of weak link that I see, and something that I want to discuss on one of the spaces once we get to that sort of level, because we want to start on the individual first. But logistics is a massive one for me, where I'm like, I listen to what you're doing and I'm like, well, I want to fucking buy your chickens. But then I think, well, how's that going to be possible? Because we don't have the logistics. We don't have like a pleb network that can do that. And moving this value through space and time, even though we're Bitcoiners, we can't put fucking chickens on the blockchain and on the Lightning Network and send them
Yeah.
across. So,
Yeah.
we still live in a physical world where we must move these goods that have value. And, I want to buy my beef from Joel. I want to buy my chickens from you. I want to be able to go and get my tomatoes from Dim. But, you're all thousands and thousands of miles away. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do we fix this? And it's a big problem, but I'd love to see someone tackle it.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Uh, as someone who's worked in sort of at least transportation, I worked in a couple of transport startups. The issue of logistics, or anyone trying to do a startup to just easily tackle logistics is, I think, by and large, kidding themselves. This is a very, very complex and layered industry. I mean, supermarkets, I would consider supermarkets like one of the biggest logistical companies that we know of. And I think it's a mistake to call them supermarkets. But that complexity in like figuring out how to move products around, yeah, that's a complicated process.
Could we start our own supermarket? Can we have the pleb supermarket, and they start to build out, and all the produce from all the growers and producers like you get sent to sort of warehouses, distribution centers, and then anyone who buys must buy with their sats? Or I know this is a long-term vision, but can we find a way to compete with, but not compete just on price? Because you're never gonna compete on price with the shitty supermarkets with very low quality food. But is there a way that we can all somehow group together, and it's owned by the collective somehow? I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, maybe even easier is just orange pill an existing farmers market.
Very true. Yeah, yeah. That's a much better idea. It's much less stress. But I think what I'm saying is, like, I do wish I could buy your chickens, but I know that the reality is it's probably not going to make sense, which is frustrating, because I'd love to buy from people that I'm speaking to and I know what they're doing, and I know I buy my wood from Ben, I buy my chicken from you, and I know that if my sats are going to you, they're not going to go into fiat world,
Exactly. Yes. And like that's a very nice way of stacking as well. Like as Andreas said, way back when, like the best way to get Bitcoin is to earn it, like earn it for doing work. And that sort of peer-to-peer payment that you make is another way of just starving the beast. And I think that is one of the most revolutionary acts. Growing your food and starving the beast are like two of the most revolutionary acts Bitcoiners can be, doing right now.
It's been fascinating, and I really look forward to seeing how it develops. And I'm sure you're going to keep me updated when you get these chickens, and let me know what's come up and what you've had to fix, and what happens with this land. I did want to just touch on, because we kind of skipped over it, but I wanted to touch on how you found yourself here and what that journey's been like for you, because it's clearly changed you as a person dramatically, which is awesome to hear, and certainly sounds like it's made you a stronger person. But what happened? Like, how did you find this, and what was that journey like?
How did I find Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin and past Bitcoin, like this group, the group of people who really are trying to push things forward.
Yeah, like as I said, I grew up really poor, and I was kind of lost. And I think that anger sort of pushed me into Marxism. It's quite a hardcore sort of Marxist communist. Read quite a lot of the Communist Manifesto. And then I found Bitcoin via the first slash dot article that came out, and was sort of mining a little bit back in 2010. Lost that drive, lost those coins, did my honors, mined Namecoin. I just SSH'd into all the computers in the lab, and I just just started mining Namecoin with all. Everybody was like, "Why are all the fans going?" I was like, "I fucking have no idea."
I love it.
Yeah, so did masters. Started working at a startup. Wanted to buy some Butterfly Labs tech. Didn't do it. And I was just broke in debt, living a very fiat life. And there was just this talk that happened at my company where one guy stood up and he was like, you guys have got to start buying equities and saving money. And I was like, oh shit, I need to fucking sort this shit out. And then another guy got up and he's like, you guys should buy Bitcoin. And I was like, wait, yeah, there's Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin. And I started DCAing from that presentation. I then went into mining Monero. Um, got into all sorts of shitcoinery, and sort of figured out, like, went down the, the YouTube rabbit hole where you just follow all the wrong people, like the
Yeah.
Ivan on Text, the modern investors,
I used to follow them as well, yeah.
and you just, at one point I realized, like, fuck, these guys aren't hodling shit. They're trading. They trade. They're telling me to buy shit, and then they fucking trading. And I'm glad I sort of realized that. And then I think the one major change was listening to Guy Swan read Robert Breedlove, and I think it was the number zero, and
Mm-hmm.
and then it was Peter's show where Peter was, saying, follow me on Twitter, and I was like, fuck, I've had this account since 2011 or 2013. Let me just go follow some people. Then I found Bitcoin Twitter, man, and got into an argument with some fiat maxi, and then I was like, bought the Bitcoin Standard, and pretty much, the rest is history. And um, you know, and just this whole pandemic and everything that's going on just sort of made me realize that what I'm doing is not enough. Like, I really, if I have this power and this ability that I think I have, like, I'm sitting on my ass. I'm wasting myself. I'm wasting my very, very short life, my short time in the sun, not like pushing myself to the point where I feel pain, and trying to like coalesce like this reality and make it, like, just make it real with my hands. There's sort of like a new and like a real sense of like urgency and purpose that sort of just came out of the madness that occurred at the beginning of the, COVID hysteria, where, everyone saw the videos of the Chinese people falling down in the street, and I legit was like, oh fuck, this is it. This is it, boys. The big ones, yeah. And after spending 5 fucking weeks locked in my own house, like, something just popped in my head, and I just said, fuck all of these people, fuck everything, fuck all these liberals who don't give a fuck about, what's happening to most of the people that live in this country. It's just yeah. And so I find myself here, sitting on the other edge of feeling like, I don't want anyone else to take responsibility for my life but me. Like, I want to not rely on daddy. I want to be the responsible father. I want to be the responsible partner. And I want to take charge of my life. Take charge of the parts of my life that feel uncontrollable. And like, I don't know about you, but it's been almost a very like lonely process, like, going through this, because you lose so many friends along the way. Like, this past year, it's been crazy. It's just been iced out of so many things. Like, getting a text like, have you been vaccinated yet? And then you say no, and then there's nothing. It's like it's been crazy. And yeah.
Yeah, very similar. It's the reason I started this show was because of feeling lonely. I was just like, I hadn't really found Bitcoin Twitter. I didn't really like. I was very, very lost, and like, I was pretty sure that I was right about Bitcoin, and I was pretty sure about the implications it would have. But yeah, no one would speak to me about that. Everyone that I knew was pretty condescending, pretty rude, actually, and I did feel alone because I felt like all the conversations that were going on were pointless. Like, I'd find myself often just in the middle of a conversation and people are talking about politics and what this person says they're going to do and blah, blah. And I just would always think, none of this means anything. Like, this is such a waste of breath. Like, it's actually so frustrating because you're just wasting your life talking about this stuff and you have no idea what you're talking about. You're just reading some nonsense that you haven't fact checked, and then you're blurting it out to sound smart, and then you're actually arguing with people about something that is completely fucking irrelevant. And I just ended up wanting to just be alone most of the time until I found Bitcoiners and had, the kind of conversations we're having today, which is like, yeah, we've talked about Bitcoin, but we've also talked about farming and family and how to improve yourself and all these sort of things. And it's a weird situation where I feel I could sit down and go and have a drink with you and I'd enjoy my time 10 times more than I would with some friends I've known for the last 20 years because, well, we're on a similar path. And it's why I'm so happy to have people like you in our ranks. And I know that, like, there are decent people here who are willing to put the work in and they're willing to fight. And I just find myself more drawn to those types of people. And COVID's been the same thing. I've been very clear since day one, my thoughts on it. And almost all my friends and family not just take the piss out of me, but try to make me feel stupid every time I speak to them, try to pressure me. I went to spread the ashes of my grandparents yesterday and all my family members because I'm sick. You can probably hear I've got a bit of a cold or whatever. They didn't want me to come until I'd had a COVID test because I'm not vaccinated. And I was just like, just fuck you lot. Just fuck you. It annoys me so much. So, yeah, I know how you feel, mate.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sorry about that. I've been very like strict with myself in not bringing up any vaccine stuff with my mom and the rest of my family. So I've hopefully, I don't know what their status is. I don't care. I don't want to know. Let's just not get into any potential fights. Don't ask me.
It's the best way. I can't help myself. I can't help myself when they attack me. I've got to attack back.
Yeah.
But it's always questions. It's always I never attack. It's not like a nasty thing.
Yeah.
I'll just question, like, have you seen the death rates? What do you think about the fact that someone in my age group has a 99.9 whatever it is % chance of survival? Oh, you want me to get vaccinated, but what do you think about the fact that the UK's published data showing that more than 70% of people who are hospitalised in the UK have been double jabbed? Yeah. What do you think about that? There is never a conversation that can be had. They take it as I'm attacking them. And because they haven't done their research, because they haven't bothered to actually look at any stats, they just watch the news and then they take that as gospel. They feel attacked because they know deep down, I think, that they haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about. We talk about personal responsibility. It's the same thing. It's like, well, if you're going to push someone in a direction, if you're going to try and attack someone for their beliefs, their personal choices, you damn well better actually know what the fuck you're talking about, and no one does. It's very weird.
Yeah, I've had similar conversations with people, very, very smart people, and they are arguing that I should, vaccinate my, almost 2-year-old against COVID. And I'm like, if you look at the UK data, since the start of the pandemic, it's like been like 25 children and young adults that have died. The majority who have had underlying conditions, and you want me to potentially risk my daughter having, heart inflammation just so that you can feel safe? Like, I don't understand this.
That.
Like, and I think like a large part of it is like, I think they're well intentioned.
Yes,
but they're also afraid. I think they are afraid that maybe that what they did was not a smart decision, but they used the best information that they thought was legit available to them. But it is kind of tiring to hear every single argument come out of people that you possibly look up to or think are very intelligent, that their words are like you're getting a New York Times narration through your friends, and it's frustrating at the best of times.
It is, but onwards and upwards, and we're building a better world, I hope. And it's really cool to see what you're doing, mate. And like I said, I'm very happy to have you in our ranks. It's awesome. And we've got our spaces this evening if you're about. Always love to have your input. And just thanks for everything you're doing, mate. And thanks for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. I really appreciate it.
I mean, it's an honor. I've seen your other guests. I've listened to some of your other shows. I'm 100% player, but I, I can't shit post. I can't meme, but I can build, and I want to build, and I am building. So I like to feel that as a player, that is my contribution to the space.
Well, thank you for doing it, and I'm sure we'll have you on again soon, and and hear from you in the spaces. But yeah, it's been awesome, mate. I've really enjoyed it, and we'll keep in touch and catch up soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.